everybody. My name is Buzz. They call me Wannabe. Today we're going to talk about guitar mathematics. We are going to talk about all the different measurements that make up a guitar. Now, a lot of you may know this already, but if you don't, stick around and you're going to learn something. Let's see what happens. All right, we love the electric guitar. We love the electric guitar for so many reasons. But why are there so many different ones, and why do some people love this one and love this one and hate this one and hate this one? Let's talk about three measurements that make up the base of the guitar. The first thing we're going to talk about is scale length. What is scale length? Scale length is the distance between the nut and the bridge. Real simple. You take a tape measure and you go from the nut to there, and that is your scale length. Now, let's talk about some different guitars and what they are in the way of scale length and why someone might play them. Fender Mustangs, Fender Jaguars are 24 inches from here to here. That's basically 1.5 inches shorter than this guitar. Now we get into Gibsons, Les Pauls, SG, stuff like that. 24.75. So we've taken the 24 and we've added 3/4 of an inch. All of your Fenders, your ESPs, your standard Ibanez, all your Southern California Shred Super Strats, 25.5. Not all Super Strats, but most Super Strats are 25.5. So now we're getting even further. Why? Well, a lot of reasons, but let's answer the question, why would someone play that? Look at me. I'm over 6'5". I'm 285 pounds, and my hands are huge. I can't play a Fender Jaguar. I can't do it. It is so small. All the frets all of a sudden got a lot skinnier. So if I want to play up here on a Fender Jaguar, the frets are too close together for my giant, sausage fingers. So why do certain people play Les Pauls? A lot of times they just have small hands. If you're thinking about a reach, you're going to do a crazy George Lynch reach, and you go, well, okay, what's that going to be easier on? A 25/5 scale or a 24 even scale? Well, obviously it's going to be almost a fret closer if it's 24 scale. So a lot of people that have small bodies, small hands, not a lot of stretch in their fingers, they might gravitate to a guitar that has a shorter scale length. So we've got your 24s, not very many of those out there. We've got 24.75 inches, which are, again, your Les Pauls, your stuff like that. There was a 25 even for a while. Carvin did that. Paul Reed Smith had some 25s, and that was kind of a in-between. But most everybody's gone away from that. Now, most of the Kiesel models are either a 24.75 or a 25.5. And that's for your 6 strings. As soon as you get to 7 strings, they start to go longer. Why? Well, a lot of 7 strings want to detune, and you're starting to get big, heavy strings in there, and you want more scale length. So, for instance, if you were playing in a death metal band and you're a 6-string kind of a player, you're probably going to want something with a longer scale. Why? If you take that 24-inch scale and you tune a full step low, and then you tune the low string so you can flat finger your chords, that string is now flopping around. You're going to need a bigger string, and pretty soon it doesn't make sense anymore. So that's why you go to a longer scale. Baritone guitars. Baritone guitars can be 6 strings, but a lot of them are 26.5. And some of them even 27-inch scale. So now we've taken and we've extended it out. Now we can drop to lower tunings and not have a floppy, flubby low end on your low strings. Then we get to 7 strings, 8 strings, and some of those are going 27 inches for standard. Now let's talk quickly about a fanned fret or a multi-scale guitar. What that is we kick our nut this direction and we kick our bridge this direction, so we have a different scale length on the high string as we do the low string. Now, as you're reading through, it'll say It's a 24-7-5 on the high E, and it's a 25-5 on the low E. That basically means your Gibson here and Fender here. Now, a lot of them are even larger than this. Some of them are starting at 25-5 and going to 27. Some of the 7s and 8 strings, go way even lower than that. So when you see a multi-scale guitar, that, the frets they'll be straight at one point and they fan out as they go, and the pickups are all kicked and kilted. That's what you're going to see when you're reading your ad. It'll say multi-scale 24-7-5 to 25-5 or whatever it is. And that's telling you how much of a slant there is and how much of a difference between the high string and the low string. Why? Because most everybody wants to tune this down so you can do your flat finger if you're playing a lot of death metal, a lot of your gent stuff. And then they like to tune even lower to try to tune to, C and B and that kind of stuff. That's great for the multi-scale. So that is your scale length. Now let's talk about string spacing. String spacing, we can talk about it up here and down here. A lot of times we just talk about neck width up here, not so much the string spacing, but there are certain guitars that are a little tighter here. Your Andy Timmons is going to be a little tighter here than your standard Ibanez. But let's talk down here. You're talking about 50 millimeters. They do this in inches and this in millimeters. Go figure, and they're going to do radius in inches. They do 50 millimeters between your high E and your low E on most of your tunematic bridges, most of your Gibson Les Paul stuff, your Epiphones, your solid mount stuff. As soon as you get to tremolo type things, your Fenders, your anything with a Floyd Rose or something like it, Kahlers, these strings now go wider. And there's another reason why some people can't really go very well from this type of a guitar to this type of a guitar. If you're used to the strings a certain distance apart and then you go grab a guitar that they're all tighter, sometimes it plays with your brain and it's hard to really, you're hitting the wrong strings sometimes. It's aggravating. So why do we talk about this? Well, if your Floyd Rose is 53 millimeters and some are even as wide as 55 millimeters, that's 5 millimeter between 6 strings. That's actually a fair amount. When you buy your bridge pickup, it's going to say you can have a standard or you can have an F-spaced. F-spaced stands for Fender, and later years people actually say it stands for Floyd Rose. But it stands for either one. F-spaced pickup means rather than have it 50 millimeter between the outside poles, it's now between 52 and 53, depending on your maker and that type of thing. But it's a little wider. Why is it a little wider? So you can put your posts directly below your strings. So when you're buying a humbucking pickup, that's what F-spaced means versus standard. Standard's going to be 50 millimeter for your tunematic bridges, for your Les Pauls, for that kind of thing. And as soon as you get to your whammies, your Floyds, your Fenders, now you're looking at an F-spaced pickup. A lot of times they don't do F-spaced pickups for necks because you're already starting to get your strings a little tighter, and these tend to want to be a little bit further away from the string because as you move it, there's a bigger difference between up and down on this pickup than it is down here. So a little bit deeper into the body, it doesn't quite make as much of a difference with your F-space. So you're going to see F-space in the bridge, not as much in the neck. Right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the radius of the neck. The radius of the neck. We're going to draw a circle, and a radius is half the distance from one corner of the circle to the other corner of the circle. I have here a piece of fret wire. This is pre-bent to a 12-inch radius. So my hand is exactly 10 inches wide from here to here. So if I went here to here, add another 2 inches, we're directly in the middle of that circle. That is a 12-inch radius. As we make the radius tighter, let's make it about an 8 or so. Okay, you look, and now we have way more bend in the fret wire. If we take it out to a 20-inch radius, now we're making it super flat. So that is the measurement of the radius. Now it's weird because you'd have to have your circle going way back here, but understand that your fingers are naturally, if you just let them sit there, they're naturally curved a little bit. So people love a curved neck if you're going to play a lot of bar chords. You know, that type of thing. The problem is once we started shredding, once we started bending, it's not really fun to bend over a hill and then back to the other side of the hill. So when we started doing lots of big bends, people went, I like a little bit flatter. I still want to do my bar chord, but I also want to be able to bend way up. So guitar necks started to become flatter. Early Fenders were super round. And then as it progressed, they started to get a little flatter. Then the shred scene came along. We don't want to have to play on the low E way down here and then to go all the way to the high E, which we want to do really fast, go up the strings and then back down. You've watched violin players when they're going from their high string to their low string. They have to yank that bow way from over here to get up over the hill to the low string. We don't want to do that with our picks. We want to be able to go straight across. So that's why flatter radiuses came into play. So let's talk about certain guitars. Certain guitars, for instance, some shredders, even now to this day, love a little more rounded of a neck. Chris Broderick and his Jacksons, he said, I want a 12-inch radius. That's pretty round for a shredder. Most shredders like about a 16, but that's what he likes. Then in came the compound radius. We now have CNC machines. You can sit there and program in exactly what you want your guitar to be, and it shoots it out perfectly. Compound radius means there's a different radius here than there is down here. So when you see now they say compound radius, that's actually the wrong word. It should be called conical radius. That's the more perfect term, but we won't get into that right now. We'll just allow it to be called a compound radius. Compound radius means there's more than one radius in the neck. It starts here and then it flattens out to here. So why is that? Because you're going to do most of your bar chords down here. Even your open chords. You're going to do those down here, and you're going to be doing more of your shredding up here, right? Kind of makes sense. So put a little more rounded neck here and a little flatter neck here. So you'll see guitars, they'll say it's a 12 to 16 inch compound radius, or 12 to 14. So it's starting a little more rounded and ending a little more flat. That's what the radius of a guitar neck is. So now we're going to talk about millimeters to inches, because it gets kind of crazy. This is a 14 to 17 compound radius. This ESP over here is a 300 to 400. Now that's in millimeters. This is in inches. So let's just take real general and say 300 is about a 12-inch radius. And a 400 is about a 16-inch radius. It's a little under. It's like 15 3/4. But so when you see a 300 millimeter radius, no, you're looking at about a 12. If you see a 400 millimeter radius, you're looking at about a 16. So this ESP that I did last week, this thing is a 300 to 400, meaning it's going 12 to 16. So it starts more rounded and ends more flat. But that will help you when you're looking through your musician's friend and all that, and you're looking and all these numbers don't make sense. So that should help you with your millimeters to inches. If you understand those three things, first of all, you're not going to make as many mistakes in purchasing. Number two, you're going to understand why certain guitars feel really nice in your hands and certain ones don't. Or you get used to one guitar and you grab your buddies and you're like, I don't know why, but I can't play this. It's going to be one of those three things. It's going to be string spacing, it's going to be scale length, or it's going to be radius. You're going to get used to and you're going to realize what you like. This is why one player likes this guitar and one player likes this guitar, and not everybody's playing the exact same guitar. Everybody wants a different feel, and part of that is what you play. If you play a lot of metal, you play a lot of flat fingering, you're going to want something that is a longer scale, and you're going to want something that's probably fairly flat. So, and 7 strings and 8 strings, you can't have a 7-inch radius on an 8-string guitar because it's starting to fall off the corners. So your 7 strings and 8 strings are all going to be a flatter radius, obviously. And then 9 strings and all that kind of stuff goes off from there. We're not even going to play with those. So if you understand those 3 simple things, you understand the math of a guitar, you understand the measurements of a guitar, you're not going to buy the wrong pickup and go, oh man, you know, these couple in here are a little louder than these strings out here because I got the spacing wrong. Hopefully understanding those couple of concepts helps you out, and hopefully you can get on a guitar and keep on rocking, because that's what we do, right? Eight-year-old strings, and they still stay in tune. Woohoo! Hey, we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.